Do you want me to go ahead and start?
Not just yet, my man. How you feeling, by the way?
I'm still sick, but I'm here. I'm committed.
Thank you, brother. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. So first, I'm just going to play my intro here. This is actually on YouTube. People can go to Occult Journeys at Occult Journeys to watch this. But here's the intro for the show. All right, that's the intro to my show with Andy Marcial. I'm going to pipe in everybody now from X, and we'll get the chat going. Where is it? Where's X? Oh, that's weird. Give me a sec. Close that.
Can't have a debut without technical difficulties.
You can't. You can't.
No, I was at the Cyril meeting Sunday night, and that's Yvonne's abductee group, and we just called it them. We're having all kinds of technical problems. We just called it them.
Damn. Okay, I'm gonna be right. Oh, if I end this, then maybe that's why. Okay. Give me a sec. There we go. All right, everybody on the interwebs and KGRA. I am currently live on Twitter Spaces. So for the future, if people want to interact with the X crowd that's live with us tonight, they can head over there. I'm going to start basically having people speak from UFO Twitter. You can see them up on the screen there. And I wanted to, hey, Dallas from Facebook, good to hear from you. I wanted to bring up Dale, Pastor Dale, my buddy online right now, to tell a story, just something positive for the community, because we got a lot of negativity going on. Go for it, Dale.
Thank you, Darcy. It's good being here. It's good to see all you guys, or to join you anyway on this great UFO Twitter week. I love the name, Darcy, by the way. UFO Treehouse. I don't think you could have done better than that. Well, my goal is to bring words of hope, wisdom, and inspiration. And so let me start by asking this question. What's the difference between hope and hopelessness? What's the difference between hope and hopelessness? Well, sometimes it can be who you listen to. And so be careful who you listen to. For example, when my oldest daughter turned about 12 years old, we knew something was going on, and we weren't sure what it was. But junior high, that's a tough time for all teenagers or kids going in. So it was about time she was going into junior high. And we ended up going to having a state caseworker evaluate, because we knew something was going on. And she diagnosed her preliminarily anyway with autism. And so she recommended that we go to the CDRC in Eugene, which is the place you go and get officially diagnosed for autism. And so about 2 weeks later, we took her there. And I'll never forget, after the testing was over, one of the doctors came up to me and he told me, he said, you need to start saving as much money as you can, because your daughter's going to be disabled the rest of her life and not be able to take care of herself. And as you can imagine, as a parent, man, I was floored. but I refused to accept that diagnosis. And so I started trying to encourage my daughter that she could be whoever she wanted to be. But the words of that doctor had kind of sank into her head, and she was telling me that she was going to be disabled the rest of her life. And she even, in fact, asked me to quit trying to encourage her, because she said, Dad, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be devastated. But I persisted. Now, in junior high, she had a terrible time. In fact, 7th grade nearly killed her. And so I took her out of the junior high and I put her in a Christian school, and she couldn't do that. Then I tried Connections Academy, which is an online school, and she couldn't do that. And so Christian school was about a month. Online Connections Academy was about a week school. And then I decided in desperation to put her back in the junior high. And the Friday I put her back in, they had a 3-hour lockdown because of some threats. And you can imagine what that did to her. And so we pulled her out. It was looking pretty hopeless, but they went ahead and sent us the papers to put her in high school. And we went ahead and put her in. And it turned out that was one of the best decisions we made, because the high school was much more prepared to be able to give her an environment that she could learn in. In fact, the thing that blew me away was that she went literally from 7th grade to 9th grade and got all A's. And so by the time she got the first year done, the freshman year done, she started to believe, hey, maybe I can graduate from high school. Maybe I can have a life. And by the time she graduated from high school, she got like a 3.94 GPA. She was top 10% in her class. And that last year or two, she started going, you know what, Dad? I'm going to go to college. I'm going to go to college. And today she's over at Oregon State University. She's in her 3rd year, and she's working on a PhD.
Holy snap.
So be careful who you listen to. Now, I tell this story to inspire you, to give you hope. See, there are all kinds of voices that are telling us we can't. Maybe one of those voices is coming from you. Let me tell you something. I don't care where the voice is coming from. If it's making you feel hopeless, then that's the voice or the voices that you shouldn't be listening to. Now, I went over and visited with Yvonne Smith this weekend, and I had a lot of doubts about something. And I kept telling myself, I can and I will. And so let me just encourage you, if you've got those negative voices around you, if people keep telling you you can't, you tell them you can. And you start saying that mantra, I can and I will. And so let me close this little saying with what I began with. Be careful who you listen to.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more there, Dale. Really impressed with those words of motivation and your daughter's backstory. I mean, I will add that my whole life, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people in this group, this space tonight, would share the same sort of experiences. I've had relatives, my family members tell me I can't succeed, I can't do this, can't do that. I've had trolls online, say I've got the shittiest films on the planet Earth and blah, blah, blah. I've worked with people in the industry and they, look down on me, and I just keep coming up. So, and funny enough, when I was in high school, my world history teacher, who I actually adored, he was super funny, super personable, had really interesting views, told it the way it was, which is, how I try to do my documentaries. I try to just straight facts if I can. Right. And he said, Darcy, you're probably not going to go to university. You're at best going to make it in community college. And I'm like, wow. It crushed me when he said that in front of a whole classroom. And I was like, I think I said like, fuck you, buddy, or something like that at the back of the class. And he was cool about it. But, fast forward, I went to a technical film school and I did like a technical diploma. And I did go to university and I graduated with a bachelor's. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I ran into him somehow, like walking around my old neighborhood after all of that. And I said to him like, hey man, I've got a degree. I'm working in my field, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, really? And I could just see the look on his face. He fucking felt really bad that he embarrassed me like that. And I think even in this community, people try to embarrass each other and take each other down instead of prop each other up, because they actually get like a dopamine hit off of that. They're addicted to either calling BS on other people or taking other people down. And that dopamine hit, is what they live off of. It's not a healthy way to live for like maybe Dale or I or some other people, but they still do it. And I think it's a reckless way to live, and it ends up really affecting our reality around us negatively. Because if you believe in consciousness affecting matter, for example, or our reality, that negativity is just like, it's BS, and I don't like it. But sometimes you do have to call BS on stuff. I totally agree with that too. Dale, thank you so much for speaking. You're welcome to stick around as a speaker. Maybe mute your mic so I can introduce some other people here. And thank you, man. Appreciate it. Dave is here. Dave Falch, I'm going to introduce you real quick. So, and just before that, I've got Transmedium UFO, who's my buddy Andy Marcial. He's helped me make the most recent documentary where we traveled to Puerto Rico. Great guy. I could call him a close friend at this point. And, he's a Puerto Rican native. He's an experiencer. He's seen UFOs with his very own eyes at a young age in Puerto Rico. And he convinced me that we had to sort of cover the Puerto Rican beat, sort of look into the history and mystery of UFOs over there. And because of his inspiration, I ended up reaching out to Jorge Martin, who's like an OG UFO journalist living in Puerto Rico. He's been doing it for 4 decades. And I just got to say, man, thanks, Andy, for your contribution to the film and to my life, really, because you helped me grow as a filmmaker by being a part of this story. So everybody say hi to Andy. Andy, say hi to the crowd.
Hi, guys, and thank you, Darcy. Appreciate that. It's been my pleasure.
Great, man. Awesome. So people may not have seen my recent film. It's recently out. I just completed some interviews. I did one with Richard Dolan. I did another one today with Matt Ford. So gradually people will hear a bit more about that adventure that Andy and I took part in on the island. But, it essentially started off by us reaching out to this journalist. He said he could plug us into to speak with some people that are in Puerto Rico who are experiencers. And essentially, as soon as I realized that we could get an in-person interview with the CBP agent who was responsible for leaking the Department of Homeland Security's Aguadilla 2013 UAP footage, we were like stoked to go and do this. So we flew out there. We interviewed him. We interviewed a bunch of other Puerto Rican natives who've, seen the phenomenon, and got back from that, edited the whole documentary together. It's been released now. Dave Fulch was part of this journey because he actually did if you're looking at Dave Fulch's Twitter page, he's actually a forward-looking infrared camera repair guy. He's been doing it professionally for a number of years for a company that services the type of cameras that the CBP planes have and a whole bunch of other different parts of industry. And he originally actually did work with Mick West. Mick really wanted Dave to be a tool to debunk FLIR footage that actually showed authentic UAPs. And when he kind of said, no, I'm not down with debunking this because it seems to be authentic, it seems to be real, they had a falling out. But Dave, why don't you introduce yourself, and you can unmute your, there you go.
Hey everybody, how we doing tonight?
We're good,
What's up,
man.
Dave?
So yeah, that was a good introduction, Darcy. It did start off like that with Mick West, where it was kind of cordial in the beginning, and then a lot of people would kind of reach out to me on instant message or the direct message and say, hey, you might want to watch out for this guy because he's got ulterior motives, and I should have listened to him, but I just kind of went on my own little way. And he started to use the videos that I was giving him to his advantage to debunk when I was actually just saying, hey, look, it's kind of an anomaly. So that's where I deviated from his confirmation bias and decided to come up with my own certain conclusions.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I brought up Osap Rocky here. A lot of people may know him. He's a good buddy of mine too. Really appreciate his contributions to the community and the way he looks at the phenomenon and analyzes the sort of ESP slash, let's say, like social system side of things. We have a lot of the same ideas, which is pretty cool. Everybody say hi to him. Dave, what's going on with the jellyfish footage? What do you think of that?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, Dave.
Okay, I'm just confirming. Well, at first I thought it was like some kind of crack in the detector or some kind of anomaly, but the more I watched the video, it seemed to be an object that is traversing through that particular area, and it's not anything that I've ever seen before. And it does kind of, it almost kind of masks itself with the way the pixels go from hot to black. It's something I really haven't seen. That's why I kind of came to the conclusion that it might be some kind of DARPA project, but I'm, reaching on that one. I really have no idea. It's not anything that I've seen. And that was taken from probably Westcam MX-20 that was tethered from a balloon over there in that region. I believe that was like, what was it, Afghanistan or something like that?
Iraq or something? Yeah, I
But,
guess it was Afghanistan.
Yeah, it was somewhere over there.
So,
but yeah,
you don't think it was like
I was just going to say I made a video on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. People check out his YouTube. What's your YouTube channel called?
I don't know if it's actually got a name. I just always Google.
It's just Dave Fulch,
Dave
right?
Fulch YouTube.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
Dave
that's
Fulch.
his name.
Yeah. So he's got some pretty cool analysis up there. He shows literally what the and even if you click on his Twitter page, you could see a FLIR photo that I think is a still from one of these MX-20 or MX-15 systems. Am I assuming that right?
It's a different system. It's a FLIR system opposed to a Westcam, but it's of what is that, an F-35 Lightning or something? I believe that's what it is.
And so it shows clearly what the jet stream of a fighter jet would look like in FLIR. That's one of the points of contention that Mick West has about the Tic Tac footage. He thinks it's just either an anomaly, which he's had that debate with Merrick. He thinks it's either an anomaly in the actual camera technology, or it's like a distant fighter jet and you're looking at the jet stream behind it, which it wouldn't look like the Tic Tac. But, you know, on Dave's channel, you can also see quite clearly what a Mylar balloon looks like moving in that kind of FLIR technology. What a latex balloon looks like, what a drone would look like, what a bird would look like. I think you have a bird in some of your shots, don't you?
I believe so. Probably on the UFO, the one that I caught, I think I had a comparison.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And then he actually has his own experience capturing a UAP while he was at work with one of these FLIR systems that was not visible to the human eye, not visible in the light spectrum of a camera that was shooting in the sky at the same time. The light spectrums that the human eye should see in, but it was visible in the FLIR spectrum, which is pretty cool.
Well, what I wanted to add this to that in regards to Dave is, it was because of Dave's experiments that he did with different objects that the SEU was able to ultimately confirm that the footage he analyzed, the rubber duck, the VHS videos, basically assisted and led to the conclusion that the objects were authentic and, you know, unknown. So he's gone out of his way to create experiments with all different types of objects to show exactly what they look like through FLIR, so that way you can see the differences and understand what it is that you're looking at, and that it doesn't match and is nowhere near any of these other objects that people are claiming them to be. So he's done a lot of work and has been very helpful in that field when it comes to analysis.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, anybody else want to pop up? I've got some people commenting on YouTube here. Nocturnal News. Hello, my UFO brothers and sisters. What's up, Darcy? You guys playing on the Bluetooth? I'll be listening. John Leonard Walson. Hey, what's up, John? Paul Damon. He says jetpack and jellyfish are NHI, or ancient advanced civilizations monitoring the airspace for what? Don't know, Paul. Where are they coming from? Maybe the ocean, maybe from space. We don't know. Does anybody else want to jump up and speak here?
I think it's a little. You shouldn't jump to these kind of conclusions when it comes to this thing. You know, with the subject. I think that's a really bad habit a lot of people have. They come up with these wild theories, you know, and I'm not trying to knock anybody in saying this, but we have to kind of really look at the subject in a realistic sense and not, you know, kind of inject that imagination into it, because it, in my opinion, it hurts the subject a little. It just makes it look like, you know, the people who are into this are really those crazy kooks that they like us, you know, make us out to be. So throwing things like that out there, in my opinion, is not a good way to approach the subject.
I would agree. It sometimes could be factored as lunacy, but maybe some of these people are right. Let's see. We got somebody else requesting here. Astral. What's up, man?
We got I believe we have a Grider up here. He had his
Grider.
hand up.
What's up, Grider? I'm on desktop, so I can't see the hands. So, OSAP, if you can kind of help out, that'd be great.
I'm doing my best here. Grider got his hand up.
Yeah, go for it, Grider.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Darcy, for letting me up. Dave, I had a question about the jellyfish. Have you considered that it might be a helicite? And are you familiar with that technology?
I'm not familiar with that technology right now. I can look it up tonight and kind of make a comparison.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was the conclusion that I came to, is that that's the only thing that I could think of. Basically, a helicite, it's a half balloon, half kite, and it's transparent through IR. And that could explain also, like, the strings are the tubes that we see within the jellyfish UAP. That could be explained as the wires for the various sensors. Basically, a helicite is it's a half like balloon, half kite, and they use it for surveillance, intelligence, reconnaissance, stuff like that. And it typically has strings that hang down. Usually it's about 8 feet off the ground. 8 to 10 feet off the ground is where it's tethered. Typically, if it's doing, surveillance, and stuff like that. So it kind of fits in with what Mike Sinkowski said during his various interviews. And yeah, I mean, I would just love to know what you thought about it after you took a look at,
That's great.
I mean, after you took a look.
That's great feedback or analysis, actually, Grider. I brought
Totally.
up the jellyfish, actually, because it is the one that I think out of the FLIR footage that is most contentious. Like, I could actually, no offense, Dave, lean towards it being a party balloon. Maybe they use the party balloons to turn it into a helicite. I don't know, but what do you think, Dave?
Well, the only aversion I have to that is that the Mylar balloons are going to be highly reflective, especially with that MX-20. You're going to see, black and white gradients as the balloon would turn. And then latex balloons are going to be almost transparent, fully transparent. But I'm very interested in the helicite theory now. So I definitely want to take a look at that and give it some credence. And, it sounds like a military type application to where I wouldn't be able to order one on Amazon, but I'd like to actually do an experiment to, do the best I can to either confirm or deny.
So it's interesting because I've actually, I know that a lot of these things can be explained, away with our technology or possible, secret technology that we might have. But there's been incidents in the past with objects that kind of resemble what this looked like, that there wasn't really any real explanation for as to what it might be. Some of these incidents were captured on security surveillance cameras in very odd locations. One of them occurred, I believe, somewhere in Mexico, where an object that had a similar shape or similar look to it was seen coming down from the sky and approaching two military security guards. And they noticed it, stopped, and you could see that it kind of startled them. They stared at the object, and you can see the object then lift, not float up. It looked like it had some kind of actual thrust of something moving it up, and was also captured by 2 other security cameras in the area. So there was, if it's that close to them, they would have been able to see if it was something, mechanical or something of that nature. But they had no explanation for what it was. They had no clue what it was. It just basically baffled them. So there are incidents where things like that have been seen that really do not have any explanation.
Can I ask, how fast was this object reported going?
I clocked it using Google Earth and the best that I could with both of the videos, doing about 23 miles an hour throughout the entire thing. And it seemed like it was consistent throughout the entire video. It was a consistent 23 miles an hour.
Very
Nick Gold
cool.
has his hands up.
Maybe we can move on a bit from this subject. Thanks, Grider, for jumping up. You're welcome to stay up and offer feedback on other things that we bring up. But Nick Gold is on the stage here. Nick, why don't you say hi?
Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to mention, I just Googled the helikites. I don't know. They are commercially available. They look like sort of a more traditional aerostat balloon, sort of melded with a kite, literally kind of hanging off the bottom. And it's pretty normal looking, so to speak. It's not as irregular and complex as the thing, whatever the jellyfish UAP video is. So, it would have to have been either damaged and kind of moving along, maybe, or disguised in some ways. Sometimes like people do disguise other things that can make them look really different. It doesn't explain some of the FLIR irregularities in that video and stuff like that. But just like people might have seen like videos of people like putting like a sheet, like a ghost outfit around a quadcopter and like hovering them around people's like windows and freaking them out. And like, it doesn't look like a quadcopter, obviously, but it still is taking advantage of the aerodynamic properties of the quadcopter and just sort of masking it. So there's always a chance that it's something that looks more banal if we knew what it was, but is being sort of disguised for whatever reason.
Very interesting. I just want to add, guys, this is for the KGRA listeners. So this show is actually going to be piped out to KGRA, to their multiple streaming networks, and downloadable on Spotify and all that stuff tomorrow. And I want to introduce Nick Gold because I believe in what he's doing. I think he's got a really powerful platform. He's this like hyper intelligent guy in the UFO, let's say UAP community now. So from his Twitter page, he says, U.S. voters, go to declassifyuap.org/action, and in less than 30 seconds, tell your representatives to support government UAP transparency and declassification. So Nick's whole thing, he's trying to fight kind of on Capitol Hill in a legislation, in a congressional engagement, whatever party people, we're all party people, whatever party representatives want to engage with this subject, that is his sort of thing. And Nick, can you kind of like elaborate on that? I'm dumbing it down here, but please tell us what you've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, just in a nutshell, I've been into UFOs since I was a little kid, which was the 80s, and, stuck with that. And over the decades, especially in the last 7 years, since the New York Times article came out, that really did change everything. I was paying attention. I've been part of some UAP science projects. I was with Galileo Project for a year. I'm currently an SCU member. And yet one thing I wasn't really seeing a lot of about a year ago, even though there was several years of legislation affecting kind of UAP transparency issues that was put forth and passed, some of these reports coming out, some offices being created within DOD, despite all that stuff, there weren't really the kind of organizations that you see in the DC area that cater to every other issue. Everything from the Save the Whales and the Black Lives Matter to major lobbying firms and nonprofits and environmental groups and PACs and super PACs and think tanks and you name it. So I thought what UAP transparency needed was the typical kind of org with a name that sort of is the cause, Declassify UAP. And, it should have like an informative web page that's pretty grounded and doesn't shove scenarios down people's throats for like, you have to believe in the issue in this particular way. It's really grounded based on official sources of information. And then it has the Action Center page that other issue websites tend to have, where you have the little form on the side and you can fill out a few fields, you press a button, and then it sends a message, encouraging UAP transparency and declassification and certain legislative steps to your own elected officials. It's for U.S. voters specifically. And so, you're hitting your congressional rep, your House rep, you're hitting your 2 senators for your state, you're hitting the president and the vice president. And, then it gives you a call tool. So you can follow up by calling their DC office and, talking to their staffers and their aides and start to get into that pattern that many other issues that have some component that plugs into Washington, D.C. and governance have, but UAP didn't really have. And we collaborate closely with UAPcaucus.com, which is Lester Nare and Ronak Patel. We were actually in D.C. last week. We had probably, about 10 different meetings with various congressional offices and their staffers on both the Senate and the House side. Some of the key offices that are really associated with this issue, and we met with some of their senior staffers that seem to be helping out with this issue, and had very productive conversations. So there's a little bit of that direct lobbying going on as well. But for that to be effective, we sort of need the numbers behind us. And so that's why we're trying to give tools, UAP Caucus and Declassify UAP, that allow the public to really engage around this topic like it's a political issue, which means you got to tell your reps that you care about it, and then demonstrate that you're well educated about it and that you're paying attention to it. And you sort of have very specific asks that you're trying to make, because we can go and knock on those doors. But the only reason we got any attention from those folks, which we did, we got plugged in with really the right folks in those offices to be talking to. And the reason is because there's a lot of people behind us making that noise, both through our efforts and other efforts. So that's what we're up to. We didn't get the UAP Disclosure Act this year, but we did get several very important UAP provisions that came into the Senate's version of the NDAA bill through the Intelligence Authorization Act, which kind of got squished into it, which is pretty typical. What's called a Government Accountability Office review of the AARO office, which is pretty atypical for a 2-year-old office, indicates that maybe some folks in Congress, don't have the feeling that Sean Kirkpatrick's AARO was particularly productive or making good on all of its mandates, which include transparency to the American people and Congress. There's that. Further solidification of making illegal the funding of UAP programs that aren't being properly briefed to Congress. So those kind of like secret legacy program things, should they exist, are explicitly called out as having to be briefed to Congress in the way that other, what they call special access programs are. So, we are making progress year over year. The trend line, that each point is kind of taking the line up and to the right, which you want to see. And every year, if we can keep making incremental progress, that's really good. And that's kind of what we've been about. Again, we're not trying to cram particular scenarios down people's throats for, what even highly anomalous UAP are indicative of. Let people come to those conclusions themselves. Let's see what the actual evidence, gives us. Our whole thing is like, let's see what the government actually thinks, because they haven't really shared that with us at this point. And we kind of deserve to know, as the American people who have been, fascinated with this topic for about 80 years now, since literally World War II. And, it's coming up on a century, which is sort of ridiculous. And we feel the government kind of owes the public, even what they think might be going on, right?
We need the truth.
Nick,
We need the truth.
can I ask
and-
you a question, Nick?
Yeah, Nick, go give it to him, Andy.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, and I'm asking this, I guess you could say realistically. What do you feel is going to come from the government, I guess, approaching or bringing this information forward to the public? Like, how exactly do you think the general public or the human race is going to benefit from the government coming forward and admitting anything in regards to this topic?
Well, I mean, I'm a believer in government. I think it's better than the alternative, which is either anarchy or ruled by warlords or, the billionaire class. And I think, the reason we have elected government is that it's supposed to be of the people, for the people, by the people. And there's a lot of imperfections there. There's obviously a lot of heavy duty financing of our government and elected officials and campaigns. there's mechanisms to change all of these things. Like they got worse because certain people got in power and they changed it and made it worse. We can get other people in there and make it better. So I do believe in the power of government to solve problems, but it has to be closely monitored and has to be filled with the right people who are operating out of the right interests. My impression is that there's a lot of people in government, both on the elected official side as well as people who like work for DOD and work for the intelligence community, who believe that the public deserves more information on UAP. In fact, I'd almost say it feels like the weight of those realms is on the side of being much more open with the American people. And that's what I walked out of those meetings last week with. At no point did it feel in those meetings like anyone we were meeting with was under the impression we were talking about balloons. We're not even trying to cram a scenario down their throat. There's plenty of Stephen Greers and other people out there who have taken that approach over the years. They can do that. We're just really asking for the transparency and presenting some paths and also the deliverables that we're looking for. So I think these people believe in the cause, a lot of them, and we're giving them very specific examples of the kind of stuff we want to see. On declassifyuap.org, there's a section I put together called the declassification targets. It's what I thought represented actually lower hanging fruit, stuff that doesn't involve like any legacy programs necessarily. It's stuff that's kind of at the level of the more normal activities of the intelligence community and the DOD and even civilian agencies and their contractors. And it's stuff like clearer videos, clearer media, some characterizations of data, even if you're not giving us radar tapes. Like, can you characterize what your radar showed the Tic Tac doing and describe it at least? What are the intelligence assessments? I actually have a FOIA request with Office of Director of National Intelligence now, and they actually told me that these intelligence assessments on what they feel the nature and origin of UAP might be, all possibilities at all confidence levels, is something that they're actually going to be sending over to the National Archives within the next month as part of the requirement from last year's NDAA bill. They said it explicitly. They said, those intelligence assessments are part of the document collection we're now putting together, and it will be transferred to the National Archives. So, maybe there's something juicy that they think is in the set of possibilities, and maybe they'll give it to us. So I think it's good when the government starts to give us information that matches the reality that people have been observing for 80 years. Because when we have our authorities telling us a story that doesn't match reality, to my mind, it really creates a lot of problems, including a lot of distrust in government, in our institutions, and our elected officials, and our non-elected officials. And we should have faith in these things, and we should have faith that they can work for us. And when it's telling us like, oh, and by the way, there's that line from 1984. How many fingers am I holding up, Winston? No, it's 5, not 4, like whatever. It's like, it's a mismatch between reality and what we're told the official version of reality is. And that's not a healthy scenario. And I do think that we're going to see more and more over the coming years, especially if the public keeps putting on pressure. My gut tells me that the trend line indicates, especially with the new director of Aero, that we're all kind of hearing some potentially positive things about. We might even get more between now and the end of the year, even though the UAP Disclosure Act didn't pass. I have a feeling we might get some more interesting tidbits. We'll see.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it'll be more of the same. Maybe it'll be something cool. But, with you around, you keep pushing it forward, man. But
well, it's a group effort. I have to say, I'm like the least among us. Lester Nare, the founder of UAPcaucus.com, he was just on Weaponized with Corbell and Knapp. I recommend people watch that. He is literally the most articulate person I think the UAP movement has on our side. And he's brilliant. I got to finally meet him in person after a year of collaborating, as well as Ronak from UAPcaucus.com, also exceptionally articulate. They're very professional. They were very great in these meetings, face-to-face with these reps. They went over very well. We have folks like them. We have folks like Dr. Keith Taylor, who is a lifelong, law enforcement official. He really represents first responders because they're often getting calls from the public about, I saw something, or, I had a strange experience, or I'm having a problem because of something that occurred relating to this topic. They don't have, really a set of resources to follow when the public has these types of scenarios unfold. So we have people like him, and there's frankly dozens and dozens of others that are part of this movement, if not hundreds, if not thousands, and frankly, including everyone who reaches out to their elected officials, because it's really about creating a movement. Like, yeah, there's going to be some people who interface more. I live in Baltimore, so it's very easy to get to DC, and I can kind of be in person to a certain degree. But without the numbers and without the movement, it doesn't amount to anything.
So true. But hey, one of your last points about trying to change legislation so that any illegal UAP program, like there can't, what was that last line?
So it's basically like, and this was actually part of last year's legislation, and they have to renew it every year, and it looks like it's getting renewed this year. It's, you know, we talk about this legacy program, or like the, you know, many decade old, you know, sketchy UFO program or programs that might not be managed quite properly, might not be getting funded quite properly, and certainly don't seem like the people in Congress who are supposed to really have access to even the most classified information. This is the members of the so-called Gang of Eight, the top people, both in the two people on the Republican and Democrat side of both the House and the Senate, as well as the top Democrat and Republican on the House Intelligence Committees and the Senate Intel Committee. And so that those 8 individuals are really supposed to be like read into everything if they want to be. And it seems like those people have not been read in on some of these legacy programs, potentially. At least these are the allegations that are being made by some very credible individuals like Rush. So this law basically makes it, whether or not they have a direct, obvious enforcement mechanism, it at least makes it so those programs, and they're being funded through potentially sketchy means that violate what's called the Federal Acquisition Regulation, which is, you know, the laws that kind of dictate how contractors have to work with the federal government. It makes it illegal for those potential contractors to receive any funding whatsoever relating to UAP programs from the government, either through contracts or through what are called IRADs, independent research and development efforts.
Contractors like Lockheed Martin, Northrop
Yeah,
Grumman.
like, you know, we sell the government stuff and there's a contract and we're supposed to follow certain regulations for how that happens. I mean, I've sold contracts to the government. So, you know, that law is important because at least it provides leverage, and Congress can say, we're going to keep digging around. I think they have leads on where some of these programs are buried probably, and who's involved with them from a contracting perspective as well as a department perspective. And they now have that power of the law behind them that says, if you're doing this hanky-panky, it's against the law. And that means something. It means that there's potentially corrective mechanisms if they do uncover those programs. So
Wow.
that's useful.
Be careful there, man. I don't want you to get whacked by Lockheed.
I mean, you know, it's funny, and I think this is an important part of my approach.
It's like, hello, Boeing.
You know, here's the thing, Darcy. Like, I don't think of those types of organizations as enemies, frankly.
Okay.
I've done business with them. I've done business with federal agencies. I've done business with DOD and the IC. I've met lots of people and spent years, you know, helping some of them solve technical problems of the vein that my career was oriented around, which is media management technology. And it's all just normal effing human beings. Like, there's a lot of really good people in those realms, a lot of patriots. I think this issue got screwed up a really long time ago, probably as far back as the 40s and 50s. And a lot of those people are dead. Like, they're not running it anymore.
Yeah.
But these feedback loops have occurred. And so institutions have been built over decades around treating this topic in a particular way. I think a lot of those organizations are ready to let go. Some of the recent word is, I have no privileged information on this, but it's like, apparently Lockheed actually potentially supported the idea of more properly transitioning some stuff they might have in their possession to a more properly managed contract and set of programs. Part of that is what both OSAP and then later the proposed Kona Blue program related to. And apparently, like Lockheed, this is again the word on the street, but I think George Knapp was even talking about it on that last Weaponized. Like, it wasn't actually Lockheed who put a damper on that. It might have been coming from the government or some other quarters. So I think we have to create the space for change to occur. And that means, for me anyway, taking more of an approach of trying to kind of create a truth and reconciliation process around the UAP topic and its multi-decade cover-up versus looking for enemies and looking for villains. I mean, if justice needs to be served in a few cases, there's always like the ceremonial heads that roll. And that's probably well and good if some sketchy things have happened. And we saw, David Grush in real time get smeared probably from a leak that came out of the IC. So that's bad, and someone needs to pay a price for that. But overall, I don't know if we can really look for villains for something that's been treated a certain way for 3/4 of a century. We just, the win is moving beyond it and getting to a new phase where we have openness to at least a reasonable degree around the topic, and science can really start to dig into it and things like that.
Dude, I'm so glad you came up and spoke. Every time you speak, it's an intellectual conversation, and that's the way I want my spaces to be. Now I'm going to switch gears to another non-privileged information topic. I have spoken with Pavel. Seems like the nicest guy. He's here tonight. He's been filling me in a little bit on this object that's approaching Earth. I've gotten some flack about posting about it. I don't know, guys. If you look at the basic calculations, if this object is 10 light years away, that is, if you're traveling at the speed of light, which is incredibly fast, that's 36.5 Earth years away. So I don't know how this thing is going to make it here by what's the prediction? 2027?
2027.
That's the Ramirez thing. Everybody's posting these old space discoveries of possibly finding life back in 2023 on another planet. People are saying that James Webb is holding back. The only thing that I could I just don't know if I believe it, but how fast is this thing traveling? Again, 36.5 human years if it was to travel at the speed of light from where it is 10 light years away now. And on top of that, it's going to need to, there's just all these questions about it. What do you guys think? I'm going to throw this around to the panel. Astral, OSAP. We got a request here. Who's this? This is Pavel. Okay, he's popping up. Let's hear from Pavel.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
We're good, man. Welcome.
What's up, Pavel?
People on KGRA are going to hear you. So please articulate this story as best as possible, my friend.
Yeah, just want to preface this by saying that on my full video, it was taken out of context, a lot of what I said, because there was a clipping of one of the videos where it appears as if I am saying that this is going to happen or that this is real. And all I was doing was reporting on information I have about it, but I don't necessarily believe it's true. I just decided to report on it because I was told that this was being told to people within Congress, and that's the reason I reported it. I don't necessarily think it's true, to be honest with you.
But it's being discussed in Congress, which is what you've heard, that's huge.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
If it's true.
Yeah.
If it's true, right?
Yeah.
And I've put for people, if they want to see who Pavel is, I've got his Twitter page open here. He goes by Seco Activo Pod. I think Seco Activo on YouTube. Go check out his videos. Cool guy, seems normal. But yeah, it's interesting. You've gotten some information supposedly from a Congress member, or?
No, my source has a lot of different connections, and I decided to run this because we were both kind of confused to why this is happening. And he's in a position to know that something like this would be happening. That's why I felt confident. But it's not a congressperson per se. It's someone who deals with them constantly.
Okay. I see Nick's hand is up. Nick, if you can make it, actually, you know what? I've actually got for the stream that's online for people that are watching the video and for KGRA, I got to close out that part of the show, but I'm going to keep open the space. So I'm just going to play the outro. Hold on for 40 seconds, folks, and we'll be good to continue the conversation. Everybody, there's going to be an after show for subscribers on KGRA. If you want to go subscribe and listen to the rest of this conversation, that'll be up there. Thanks so much for checking this out. This is our debut show, Andy and I, and all the folks on UFO Twitter. All right, so I am back for the space, but I have ended the stream on